The Delta is by far America's most dangerous region. Dirt poverty, humid weather, mosquitoes, corroded infrastructure, disease rates, and don't get me started on the crime. The region stretches from Louisiana to Mississippi, Alabama, and kind of up to western Tennessee. And if you're unfamiliar with the area, it holds by far the highest poverty rates and violent crime rates in the country. Like it's exponentially more dangerous here than anywhere else you could go. The cities really speak for themselves. I mean, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Jackson, Mobile, Birmingham, Shreveport, and most importantly, the largest city of them all, Memphis, Tennessee. This is a place where if you haven't been, you truly have no idea.
And it's like too much going on, and I just can't.
The last week has felt like an eternity for a Memphis woman.
Now, my kids can't even go outside no more.
A simple act this mother no longer takes for granted after she and her uncle were shot outside of her home on Eldridge Avenue. This all stemmed from an argument at the B52 market where a man allegedly threatened to kill her after she confronted him about her child. She says the man then followed her home and opened fire.
Charges for the deadly crime spree in Memphis during Super Bowl Sunday. Cordarian Kraft was indicted on 48 counts, including first-degree murder and aggravated assault. During the crime spree, Kraft shot and killed one man, hurt 2 women, and carjacked 2 other people. That weekend in February, Kraft had been out on a $100,000 bond after being accused in a separate robbing and shooting this past November.
The violent crime in Memphis is absolutely out of control. To put it in perspective, in 2024, San Francisco had 35 homicides. Now, this is a city of 850,000 people. Now, Memphis is a city of only 600,000, and they saw 357 homicides in the same exact period. This gives Memphis a homicide rate nearly 3 times higher than Chicago and 9 times higher than Los Angeles. Memphis is truly a scary place, but let me just tell you that it wasn't always this way. At one point, Memphis was a thriving middle-class city, a city known for rock and roll, blues, barbecue, a massive military training base, and for being a trading hub along the Mississippi River. It was also a major factor in the civil rights movement, which in a twisted way would be the beginning of its downfall. As the strive for equality continued to succeed in the 1960s, the white population of Memphis left with a quickness like never seen before. In fact, the city of Memphis went from 91% white in 1960 down to just 24% white in 1990. Now, why exactly does this matter? Well, it's not because of race. It's because anytime a huge chunk of your population leaves the city, it's going to have some negative effects. Tax revenue falls, schools close, police are laid off, companies leave, and that's how we start the spiral that we have today. Like if you go around Memphis today, you'll see abandoned houses everywhere, lack of jobs, rundown schools, and definitely a severe lack of policing. In fact, in 2023, Memphis solved only 31% of murders, and that's compared to 65% nationally. So yeah, Memphis is an extremely rough place to grow up and even harder to make it out of, as you'll see in this video. A city where simply being successful will make you a target and where your own friends will eliminate you out of pure jealousy. Zero structure, zero rules, no big homies, just all pure chaos. Welcome to the war in Memphis. But before we get into it, let me finally run the intro. The story begins in North Memphis, specifically the infamous Ridgecrest Apartments. Infamous for all the wrong reasons, and this is where a boy named Mario Mims was born in 1981. Mario grew up in a truly hectic environment, outside the apartment, but most importantly inside as well. Unfortunately, as a young child, Mario saw his parents cook up and trap out of the apartment, exposing him to things that no child should ever see.
If I open the deep freezer to get a popsicle, stack some money in the deep freezer. If they drop me off over my auntie house to play with my cousin, they stacked some money in they shit.
Despite his toxic environment, Gotti was smart and was able to succeed in school. However, when he got to his teenage years, he had a lot of responsibilities because he was basically out on his own. So around the age of 14, Gotti began hustling in the rough streets of Memphis. And because he learned the game from his family, he was able to do it pretty successfully, enabling him to buy some things that he never thought he could have. For him, it was a Mustang GT on Dayton's and a bunch of fresh clothes. That's all that really mattered. But Mario knew that he didn't want to be a criminal forever. In fact, he had much bigger dreams for his life. Inspired by the local success stories of 3 6 Mafia and 8 Ball and MJG, he knew that he wanted to be a rapper. So from the age of 15, Mario began recording music and selling his CDs out of the trunk. His rap name was Lil Yo, and he dropped his first mixtape as a sophomore in high school in 1996. Long story short, Mario kept hustling his mixtapes for 13 straight years. To put it simply, he just never gave up as he finally cracked his way into the industry in 2009. With songs like 5 Star and Women Lie Men Lie featuring Lil Wayne, he was becoming a household name. But being a 30-plus-year-old brand new rapper, he knew that he couldn't be a rapper forever, so he started to shift his mentality into being a boss. So in 2012, he opened his label called CMG, short for Cocaine Money Gang. The idea was that he was already a hometown hero in Memphis, so he wanted to sign local talent and take their careers to the next level. However, CMG was off to a slow start, as for the first 2 years, nobody signed to Gotti. There just wasn't really a lot of local talent or interest to sign to an artist like Yo Gotti, cause no disrespect, but why would you sign to Yo Gotti when you can sign to literally anyone else? But as we know, Gotti is persistent, and just like his rap career, he was willing to be patient until he found the right artist. Well, that takes us to 2014, when Gotti was able to find his perfect protege to sign. We now shift to the south side of Memphis, specifically the notorious Castalia Heights neighborhood. Abandoned houses, rats, roaches, and non-stop gunplay. Here is where a man named Dolph Thornton was raised most of his life. He was actually born to his parents in Chicago, but if you know anything about history, you know that everyone in Chicago's grandparents come from Memphis or Mississippi. Well, just like Yo Gotti, Dolph's parents were involved in the game as well, so they sent him to live with their grandma while they did the street stuff in Chicago. They figured that they didn't want him exposed to their lifestyle, and grandma's house would be a much better environment. And while yes, grandma was strict and tried to keep him sheltered, his neighborhood of Castalia was just as bad as Chicago and probably actually worse. Dolph is really from the bottom of the bottom, and because of this, his grandma did her absolute best to make sure he was disciplined.
My grandma was she was little. She one of them little bitty ladies, you know what I'm saying? Then she older. But man, my grandmama don't play no game. I'm talking about ass whooping. It's like, nah, it ain't even about the ass whoop. She would do that when I was little, but she still had this fear that made me fear her even when I was in high school and got grown and older. You feel me? Like, she give you this look, or she got this, she'll cuss you out in a second and not even think about it. She prepared the nigga for life. She fucked the nigga up in a good way. Like, cause it's like, I don't expect shit from nobody.
He would later appreciate her discipline, but as a teenager, he really didn't understand it and he rebelled and jumped into the streets. So while still in high school, Dolph started hustling the streets of Memphis and stacking up major paper. But again, just like Gotti, he knew that he didn't want to do that forever and he had bigger dreams for his life. He knew that he wanted to do something with music, but he wasn't sure if he knew how to rap. That's until 2008 when his friends would get him in the studio and he realized that, oh my goodness, I can actually rap. This became his new hustle and passion, and he began slanging mixtapes in the streets of Memphis. Slowly but surely, he began gaining traction, but he never had the idea of signing to a label. Instead, he wanted to start his own. This is exactly what he did, as in 2010, he started his label Paper Route ENT, also known as PRE. Basically, he created his own movement, and it gained recognition from Gucci Mane, Trey the Truth, Rick Ross, and most importantly, Yo Gotti. Yep, in 2014, Gotti discovered Young Dolph's mixtapes and music videos, and he saw all the potential in the world. He saw him as Memphis's next biggest superstar, but more importantly for him, CMG's next biggest artist, or first biggest artist. Cause remember, at this time, other than Yo Gotti himself, the CMG label had not done well at all. So for Gotti, Dolph was like light at the end of the tunnel. This guy can save the brand. On top of this, he figured that Dolph signing with him was a no-brainer. Like, why would he ever turn that down? I'm the biggest, richest boss in Memphis, and I can give him a deal that he can't turn down. On top of this, he figured that the trust would be there, because if you don't know, Dolph and Gotti's older brother named Jook, well, they used to move weight together in the streets. Well, long story short, in 2014, Gotti contacts Dolph and tries to sign him. Obviously, he's expecting Dolph to be ecstatic and to want to sign with him right away. But that's not the case at all. In fact, Dolph has zero intentions to sign with Yo Gotti, no matter how big the bag is. It truly was nothing personal, as Dolph really just didn't want to sign to another man. He wanted to be his own boss. So in his mind, he respectfully declined Gotti's offer. No hard feelings, just business is business. Now this makes perfect sense, right? Well, it's not that simple, and here's how everything would play out. It's the summer of 2014, just a couple months removed from Dolph turning down Gotti's offer. Well, this is when Dolph makes the shocking decision to sign with a small upcoming label in San Francisco. This would of course be Empire, and if you're familiar with Empire, you know they're not the typical label. In fact, they're more so of a distribution company. Basically, you keep creative control and ownership of your music, and Empire markets and distributes for a percentage of the revenue. It's a very smart deal for a self-motivated hustler like Dolph, cause you don't have a label breathing down your back or holding back anything you do. But regardless, this is not what's important for the story. What's important is how Yo Gotti felt about it. Now, regardless of specifics, let's put ourselves in Yo Gotti's shoes. You told me as a man that the reason you turned down my deal is because you don't want to sign a deal at all. And then just a couple months later, you go and sign a record deal. So pretty much you lied to my face. And as a boss from your own city, you should probably have some more respect for me. Not only did I offer you a big bag, but you also used to move weight and hang with my brother, and you still didn't have enough respect to tell me the truth? Who do you think you are, lying to the face of the king of Memphis? F you. Regardless of right or wrong, this is how I truly believe that Gotti felt. Unfortunately, he took the situation personally, and from here, tensions would rise. While Gotti was feeling some type of way about Dolph, Dolph's career was taking off to the next level. He dropped hit songs like Preach, Cut It, Get Paid, and his mixtapes were doing pretty well as well. Dolph becomes somewhat of a household name by 2016, which only adds fuel to the fire of Yo Gotti's tension. Now, the situation could very well be deeper than this, but from the outside looking in, it was just a business disagreement that turned sour. Well, regardless, Dolph started getting tired of the subliminals and negative energy from Gotti's camp, and he decided to set the record straight. On February 19, 2016, Dolph adds major fuel to the fire, rubbing his newfound success in Yo Gotti's face. He releases his debut studio album called King of Memphis, where he's obviously claiming the throne to his city. Now, as the saying goes, this city is way too small for the both of us. Like, oh, you drop a couple hit songs and a few decent mixtapes, and now you think that you're ahead of me as the king of the city? Nah, no way. Right or wrong, Gotti took this as the ultimate disrespect, and he wanted to prove a point. Now that introduces us to Gotti's new artist at the time by the name of Youngsta. To the world, Youngsta was a goofy, funny rapper that made songs that you could dance to, that's it. But little did people know, before he was a rapper, in the streets of Memphis, he was known for, doing Memphis activities. Well, right after Dolph would drop his King of Memphis album, Youngsta would send a message online. In fact, he actually goes to Dolph's hood and records himself walking through, sending a warning.
Yeah, right now, cuz. We in Cascade right now, cuz. What Dolph at, cuz? Where he at, cuz? Where he at? Where he at right now? Where he at? 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 See the level, dog? Where you at, dog? Where you at? Where you at? We in Cascade right now. We just left the store. Where you at right now, dog? Where you at right now? Where you at? Where you at? CLG, bitch. I love Cascade. Fuck with Dolph. Yeah, we don't fuck with Dolph. You fuck with Dolph, cuz? You fuck with Dolph, man.
He then posts a video dissing Dolph, telling him that he's soft and that he's not the king of Memphis.
Keep this shit G, bro. Dolph, you a soft ass, you nice ass. If you got a problem, nigga, say you got a problem. Shake ass. He ain't no motherfucking king of Memphis. He ain't king of South Memphis. He ain't from the city.
So this is when the beef, at this point, the fans and the world didn't know about, would hit the net and everyone would be up to tune. But according to Dolph, this all took him by surprise. Like, we're beefing? What? Since when? To Dolph, it all seemed like a cry for attention, and he really laughed at it and didn't take it seriously.
Now, I mean, you already made your artist use my name to get some attention. I laughed at that. It's funny to me. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
It's funny to me.
But on top of this, there's a main reason why he didn't take it seriously. And that's because he says that for Yo Gotti's whole career, he's dissed people and tried to start beefs just to get popular. So in his mind, it's like, well, I'm just another victim of Yo Gotti's clout chasing.
How do you get it first? How do Yo Gotti get pop and get some attention? Nobody heard of him to win till he dissed 3-6 Mafia.
This is true.
Right,
okay.
Right. You had to use 3-6 Mafia and dish them to get you some attention.
Right.
You made your artist use my name to get some attention. See what I'm saying?
Right.
And to conclude his message, he puts out his truth. Gotti is just hating on me because I'm successful.
You hating on him because he wasn't signed with you. Know what I mean?
Right.
You hating on him because he popping and he really popping and he's still independent. Know what I mean?
Right.
You hating on him because he really got M's and did the shit without no help.
Now you might be thinking that this is all silly internet shenanigans, and it is, but in a city like Memphis, much less can get you slumped. Like once you go on the radio discussing the beef, or you walk through somebody's hood and diss them, yeah. All the squabbling is out of the window. This is not like other cities. When it's up, it's really up, and for really no reason at all, Dolph was now a major target in Memphis. There were a bunch of people ready to crash out for Yo Gotti, as you'll see for the rest of the video. But either way, standing down or throwing the white flag was not in Dolph's character whatsoever. In fact, he would do the complete opposite, as he would drop one of the most disrespectful diss songs in rap history. February 22nd, 2017.
Don't play with me, play with your bae.
In the song, he gets straight to business.
Don't play with me, Yo Gotti, you a hoe, man. You went from my biggest fan to my biggest hater, begging me to sign with you, but you know I had too much paper.
To make matters worse, he disses Yo Gotti's big brother Jook by saying that he used to serve him, but now he calls him Big Sister. The song slaps, and literally the entire thing is disrespectful. So instantly it would go viral, and he had everyone in the country dissing Yo Gotti. On accident, I guess. Basically, this was stop playing with me with all the threats, I'm not scared of you or worried about you at all. Please just get off my. Well, obviously, Yo Gotti was more than pissed, along with his big brother Jook, cause his name was dragged into it as well. This was obviously a major power move by Dolph, but I'm not sure he knew what he was up against. Or maybe he did and just didn't care. Why I say that? Well, now I have to introduce you to Yo Gotti's muscle and power in the streets of Memphis. As you'll see, this was nothing to play with. Being a multimillionaire results in having ultimate power in a city like Memphis. That's because there's an infinite number of crash outs who will slide for a small fee. It's really that simple. But on top of this, for Yo Gotti, he had family connections to a notorious gang in North Memphis known as the Trula Mafia. And although this isn't an organized gang with put-ons, DPs, squabbles, and all that, it's more so like crash outs that rock together and crash over anything. And when I say over anything, well, that's my segue to introduce you to some of their members. First, we have a guy named Justin Johnson, who's locally known as the rapper Straight Drop. This is a guy who's truly willing to sit down and do life for any reason possible. Why I say that? Well, that takes us to January 31st, 2017. It's a regular Tuesday night in Memphis, and Straight Drop takes his girlfriend out to a bowling alley in East Memphis. So at 8 p.m, the couple head off to Hardwick Lanes and get to bowling together. As they're bowling, Straight Drop somehow gets into an argument with the couple in the lane right next to them. And boom, just like that, they start throwing hands while their feet are slipping everywhere. After the security separates them, Straight Drop puts his hands up and walks out of the bowling alley, as if he's showing mercy, I don't want any problems. But little does everyone know, he has other plans. As he walks to his car, he tells his girl to hop in the driver's seat and pull around in 2 minutes. He then grabs a chopper out of his trunk, cocks it, and walks right back to the bowling alley. There he sees the couple that he fought right outside, and sadly, without hesitation, he straight drops on them. Bam! Thankfully, after being rushed to the hospital, the couple would be okay. And on top of this, later that night, police were able to get security footage and track down the license plate. They discovered that the car belonged to Straight Drop's girlfriend, so the first thing the next morning, they raided her house. At 4 in the morning, they busted into her house, put her in handcuffs, and what do you think's next? She understandably starts crying, and she tells the police every single thing that happened. My boyfriend Justin Johnson popped the couple, and me, I had nothing to do with it. So boom, just like that, Straight Drop is arrested, facing 2 attempts and 2 assaults with a deadly weapon, and of course, 20 years in Tennessee prison. Now you might be wondering what was the point of this story, but trust me, Straight Drop will be very important later on. Oh, and so will his best friend named Cornelius Smith. This guy's got a track record longer than Jason Love. Kidnappings, carjackings, assaults, you name it, just all the Memphis activities. So now you understand that these are the type of guys that Gotti has on speed dial. Absolute crash outs who are willing to smoke Dolph, not because he did anything to them, but because Boss Man wants it done. But thankfully for Dolph at this very time, they were both locked up. But regardless, this didn't mean that he was safe, and that takes us to February 25th, 2017. It's the annual CIAA basketball tournament in Charlotte, North Carolina. And if you're unfamiliar, the tournament is a tradition where the historically black schools compete for a trophy. While Dolph is in town to support the tournament and of course to perform at 2 parties as well. The first of which is an outdoor day party in Charlotte's 4th Ward. So Dolph performs at 5 p.m, everything goes well, and once he's done, he collects his money and heads off to his next booking. Or at least that's his intention. 6:30 p.m. Dolph and his crew hop in a black Escalade and head down Caldwell Street. As they turn the corner onto 8th Street, that's when a car gets right up behind them. The random car rolls their windows down and out of nowhere starts blowing at the Escalade. After dumping over 100 shots into the Escalade, the car speeds away thinking that Dolph and his crew are definitely goners. But little do they know, the Escalade is 100% bulletproof and not a single round pierced through. But regardless, this was definitely a scary incident and a wake-up call to how serious Dolph's beef was. His rivals want him dead so bad that they're willing to send hitters his way in completely different states. 100+ shots is what you call overkill, and definitely was a statement being made. If he wasn't before, Dolph was now aware of the level of danger ahead. Except he really didn't seem to care, at all. Why I say this? Well, because right after getting lit up 100 times, he still went on to perform at his later show.
Even a day party. I was leaving a day party. We was headed to where we was headed to. Pull out the lot on a day party and get up the street. They started shooting. They shot. Shooting was over with. And shit, I had another party to go to that night. You know what I mean? So, shit, we went and did our party that night.
Dolph was the ultimate hustler, and not to mention that he just wasn't scared of anything. On top of this, he wanted the world to know that I'm not worried about Yo Gotti whatsoever. Just a month after the incident, Dolph would release a song called 100 Shots, alluding to everything that happened. So basically after this, the whole world knew that Yo Gotti was thirsty for Dolph's head.
Pause. Oh my goodness.
Let me try that again. Yo Gotti wanted to spank Dolph. And even after this major failed attempt in Charlotte, they weren't done yet. Persistence, persistence, persistence. We're gonna keep trying and we're gonna find you wherever you are. And that fast forwards us 6 months to September 26, 2017. It's a Tuesday afternoon in Los Angeles, and young Dolph arrives in town for a show on Thursday. He lands around 2 p.m. and takes a limo with his crew to Hollywood, where he checks into the Lowe's Hotel. Shortly after checking in, he figures why not go outside and do some shopping. So by himself with no worries, he walks down to Shoe Palace on Hollywood Boulevard. As he's approaching the store, a gold Escalade is creeping up behind him. That's when 2 men spot Dolph, hop out of the Escalade, and run him down. Bam! They pop him up, run back to the car, and then speed away. Dolph knows that he's critically injured, so he runs into the Shoe Palace, flags down employees, and tells them to call an ambulance. Thankfully, the ambulance arrives in under 5 minutes, and Dolph is rushed to the hospital. Regardless, it's still very serious, as Dolph is listed as critical condition.
Bullets fly near the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Tourists ducking, and a rap artist was hit and seriously injured. Tonight, police say an ugly rivalry may be behind that shooting.
Meanwhile, while Dolph is in there fighting for his life, the suspects crash the Escalade in the Hollywood Hills. They try their best to run away on foot, but little do they know Los Angeles has helicopters in the sky. So within minutes, 2 arrests are made. As the news breaks of Dolph getting shot, everyone in the world is wondering what the heck happened. Was this a robbery gone wrong, or did Dolph have beef with someone in LA? Cause there's definitely no way that his rivals in Memphis went all the way to California to get him. And to do this on Hollywood Boulevard in front of everyone? Nah, no chance. But little did people know the dudes in Memphis are different.
A man has been arrested in connection with the shooting of rapper Young Dolph. Police booked Corey McClendon from Memphis, Tennessee for attempted murder. Young Dolph was shot multiple times Tuesday after getting into an argument with 3 men outside of a Hollywood hotel. The rapper remains in critical condition. Bail for McClendon has been set at $1 million.
So now the question is, who is this Corey McClendon from Memphis, Tennessee? Well, according to Los Angeles police, he's a longtime childhood friend of Yo Gotti. So this all but confirms exactly what this was about. At this point, Dolph is so hated that he can't even travel safely to cities like Charlotte or Los Angeles, California. Well, thankfully Dolph was able to recover, but this was yet another scary incident. Not only did his ops track him down all the way on the other end of the country, but they were also staying at the exact same hotel. This was very suspicious, but somehow Corey McClendon was able to beat the case 2 years later. This was a second failed attempt on Dolph's life, and at this point it's like, come on, give it up. First of all, from what we know, the beef isn't that deep. It's just simple jealousy, that's it. And thankfully for the meantime, the attempts on Dolph's life would calm down. Just peace, prosperity, and elevation for Dolph's life. For the next few years, the CMG side was focused on building up their record label, and Dolph was turning into a global star. Both sides were absolutely thriving and definitely putting on for Memphis. So because of this, there was really no need to beef at all. It even got to the point that Dolph started rolling around Memphis by himself in his flashy cars. The bottom line is that after the Los Angeles shooting, it was a very good 4 years for both sides. So in everyone's minds by 2021, the beef is pretty much a memory. But little did people know, for whatever reason, the CMG side was still as motivated as ever to spank Dolph. In fact, Memphis police believe that they were so determined to end Dolph that Gotti's brother Jook would put a $100,000 bounty on his head. That takes us to mid-November 2021. Dolph is back home in South Memphis visiting family and friends and driving around in his signature camo-wrapped Corvette. Obviously, just being in Memphis alone is a risk, but driving around in the car that you post all over the internet? My goodness, man. Maybe he thought the camouflage would make him invisible, but that's really not how it works. Or maybe he just didn't think he was in danger and had no clue about the $100,000 bounty on his head. But unfortunately, the hitters from the other side know all about the bounty, and once they get word that Dolph is in town, they get ready to lurk. Well, that takes us back to some people that I introduced earlier. First, we have Justin Johnson, also known as Straight Drop. Wait, wasn't this the guy who lit up the bowling alley and got arrested for it? Yep, that's him, and he was facing 20 years in prison. However, Memphis is so lenient on crime that he only did 6 months in jail before being released. What the hell? And because of this negligence, he was right back to the life of crime in the streets. And secondly, we have Straight Drop's best friend, a man named Cornelius Smith. And this guy, well, he was supposed to be in prison as well, for carjacking and for kidnapping. However, in typical Memphis fashion, a judge let him off easy once again. Well, because of this, the duo were back together in the streets and hungry for that alleged $100,000 bounty. While Dolph is casually riding around Memphis in his Corvette, these two are riding around looking for him. And that takes us to November 17th, 2021, 12:15 p.m. Dolph leaves his grandma's house in South Memphis and heads to a local bake shop called Makita's Cookies. After getting a couple of cookies and supporting the local business, he walks back out to his Corvette. But little does he know, Straight Drop and Cornelius know exactly where he's at and they're on their way. So while Dolph is standing outside his car not paying attention, Straight Drop and Cornelius pull up in a white Mercedes that they stole the day before. As soon as they spot Dolph, they instantly stop the car and hop out with choppers. And without hesitation, they start unleashing. After carrying out the hit, they speed off and head to a local neighborhood called Orange Mound. And here's where they arrive at the house of an associate named Hernandez Govan. Without wiping down the car, tossing blicks, changing license plates, nothing, they simply park in his driveway and walk inside in the same clothes they did the hit in. Now, why exactly are they there? Well, police say that they're there to collect the money from Jook, except that Govan is the middleman. So they inform him that they completed the job and they discuss where the payment will come from. They end up agreeing that Cornelius will get $45,000, Straight Drop will get $45,000, and Govan's cut is $10,000. Now, to me, this is ridiculous. The risk involved in only getting $45,000 and then $10,000 for Govan? No way. But in a poverty-stricken city like Memphis, $45,000 is absolutely life-changing. So after being promised the money, the duo decide to cover their tracks. They wipe down the car for fingerprints and take the weapons used and throw them into the Mississippi River. And as far as the white Mercedes they used, well, they would just take it right next door to Govan and park it behind an abandoned house. So on January 5th, 2022, an arrest warrant would be made for Justin Johnson.
A breaking news update this afternoon. We are digging deeper into the criminal history of the man accused of killing beloved Memphis rapper Young Dolph. This afternoon, multiple law enforcement agencies are looking for Justin Johnson and offering thousands of dollars for information leading to his arrest. WREG Shay Arthur spent the day investigating Johnson's past and is live tonight with what she found out. Shay, what do you have?
Hey, Alex, yeah, that 23-year-old spent several years in federal prison, but he was released pretty recently, actually in May, for good conduct. Tonight, U.S. Marshals, Memphis Police, and Tennessee Bureau of Investigation agents search for Justin Johnson, accused of murdering 36-year-old Adolph Thornton Jr., the well-known rapper Young Dolph. His death at a cookie shop sending shockwaves through the city. But tonight, we're learning Johnson was also responsible for another crime that also shocked innocent bystanders back in 2017. Records show at the time an 18-year-old Johnson got into a fight at Billy Hardwick's All-Star Lanes in East Memphis.
We heard ambulances, we heard police, we heard just the police cars screaming.
Police say he went to his car, got an assault rifle, and shot into the crowd, injuring multiple people. A few months later, court records show Johnson pleaded guilty to several charges of aggravated assault. A year later, officers say he drove a car into a gated apartment complex and refused to leave. Police say they found a loaded gun and marijuana in the car. Records indicate those charges were dropped. In 2019, he was committed to federal prison, then released May 25, 2021. Several sources have named Johnson as rapper Straight Drop. When we asked for law enforcement confirmation, we were directed to Straight Drop's Instagram page. Tonight, many fans are also making a connection, noticing where Straight Drop shot a video outside of an abandoned home. They believe it is the same spot a car matching the description as the getaway car in Young Dolph's death was discovered. That video was posted online following Young Dolph's death.
Not only did he park the car behind the abandoned house, but he also recorded a music video with the car after doing what he did. Boy, you dumb as hell.
It's the same home seen here in this music video featuring Young Dolph's accused killer, Justin Johnson, also known as Straight Drop.
So now we know that Straight Drop is cooked, but let's now focus back on Dolph. This was a tragic loss for Memphis, but also for the rap community as a whole. Dolph was truly loved and respected by many, and his peers still rave about his character to this day.
One of my most memorable stories about Dolph is I was in Icebox, and I was just looking at a piece, in the jewelry store. Just checking it out, put it on. I was like, okay, I might come back, rock with it. I left out, they came running like, Zay, no, come back in here. Dolph bought that necklace for you. That's how, that's the type of dude Dolph was, so definitely miss my bro Dolph. You know what I mean? He one of them guys I can call to do anything. I need a verse, I need him to pull up to a show for me. He gonna do it. Big as he is, he gonna, do whatever, so.
He stopped the show, met my son, hugged him, took pictures with me. Like I say, this on stage now. He really took time to stop the show, take pictures with my son and his friend and everything.
A son, a father, a brother, a friend, a businessman, a music artist, a philanthropist, and life partner are all among just some of the titles that my brother Adolph Robert Thornton Jr. held.
After the tragic incident, many were left wondering, why was he moving around Memphis alone? After already having 2 attempts on his life, you'd think that he'd move smarter, right? Many assumptions can be made on why he was moving how he was moving, but maybe that's just who he was. He wasn't gonna let a hater dictate whether he could go back to his neighborhood. He was gonna move how he always moved. And even though this was obviously a tragic decision, it's also kind of respectable. But also people were wondering, where are his homies, and does Dolph have any muscle in the streets of Memphis? He was a hustler, a great rapper, a father, a respected character and all, but as far as having power in the streets, we all kind of assumed that he didn't have it. However, boy were we wrong. After his passing, an absolute beast would be unleashed. Steppers would come out of the woodworks and start eliminating anyone from the other side, all as relentless get back for Dolph. Welcome to the Spin for Dolph era in Memphis. It all begins with an unexpected victim just 6 days after Dolph's passing. It's a regular day in the life of a local comedian named Darion Childs, commonly known as D-Money. D-Money is a North Memphis local and has ties to Gotti's camp. However, from what we know, he was never in the streets. Either way, after receiving the news of Dolph's death, D-Money decided to make some disrespectful tweets. First, he would post,
"Man, them folks just killed off Dolph. I love Memphis, we so gangsta."
Then directly after, he would make a joke saying that they arrested his grandma for Dolph's murder. Sheesh, the internet would rightfully tear him apart for his disrespect and clowning, to which days later he would respond. Instead of apologizing or rationalizing what he said, all he said was, "If the news don't post me as a legend when I die, they hate it." Well, I guess you could call this foreshadowing. November 23rd, 2021, 10:30 p.m. It's a regular Tuesday night in North Memphis, and D-Money is getting gas at the Valero gas station. While pumping gas with 2 females in his car, another car slowly creeps behind him. D-Money isn't paying attention to his surroundings, cause he's not in the streets and he doesn't have ops. So little does he know, 2 masked men hop out of a black Jeep and walk his way. Sadly, before he can even turn around, the 2 men start unleashing.
Family family is speaking after one of their loved ones was killed in a shooting at a Fraser gas station earlier this week. Today, Memphis police identified the victim as Darion Childs. Barry G's Jordan James explains why some are linking his death to the death of young Dolph and how his family is responding.
We like Marlon and Mike. What? When he fight, I fight.
It's this video of Darion Childs that captivated the hearts of millions. Now, years later, many are talking about how the Memphis comedian died days after making remarks about young Dolph on social media.
It's hard to ignore the stuff they're saying, like clicking on his page and us seeing them laughing.
In a series of Facebook posts, Childs questioned the outrage that people are feeling about the death of Dolph. His sister, Shamicia Mason, says his words were taken out of context.
He's like, I'm not joking about Dolph's death. He said, I'm just saying that Memphis is basically the next Chicago because anybody can get killed in Memphis. He was like, it's crazy how young Dolph actually went to a cookie place and got killed in his own neighborhood.
Childs was among two people shot outside of a Fraser gas station. Surveillance video shows someone walking up to the vehicle he was in and firing several rounds.
Regardless if D-Money's tweets were intended to be disrespectful or not, what happened to him was definitely a message to Memphis. Whether or not you had something to do with Dolph's passing, if you're on that side and clowning Dolph's death, we're coming to get you. This sent a serious precedent. After this, the city knew what was up behind Dolph, coming for any and anyone, and because they now couldn't get to straight drop, they wanted to get the person closest to him. This would make his first cousin a major target, and if you're unfamiliar, this would be CMG artist Big Nuski. Now mind you, Nuski had nothing to do with Dolph's passing, but because he was first cousins with straight drop, somehow this made him a target. January 28th, 2022. It's an exciting day for Nuski and his cousin and fellow rapper named Big 30 as they're set to perform at their former high school. Well, Nuski and Big 30 pull up to the school, perform in front of the students, and it's a good old time. The students go crazy and the rappers feel like kings. It's all good vibes all around. So after performing at their old high school, the rappers decide to head back to their old hood. Well, actually, Big 30 heads off, but Nuski, he heads back to his old New Horizon River apartments. This is where he kicks it for hours with the homies, shooting dice, you know, the whole 9 yards. Well, eventually, word gets around on social media that Nuski's back in the hood. Unfortunately, this is bad news, as the Slide for Dolph steppers are starting to get hungry. 7 p.m. While Nuski is posted up in front of the apartments, a silver Kia creeps up front. Then out of nowhere, 2 men in masks hop out with choppers and start airing out the apartments. Sadly, Nuski doesn't make it. This was a tragic loss for Gotti, but more importantly for Moneybag Yo and Big 30. Nuski was Moneybag's protege, and for Big 30, well, Nuski was his idol and big cousin.
Yeah, I got a best friend. He passed away though. Shit, he was a good person. He was a how he carried himself, things he do and shit, you know what I'm saying? What he meant to this city, like, what he meant to everybody. We was just smiling and shit. I had a show at school for the kids and shit. He stayed smiling and shit. He stayed smiling and that nigga proud, let a nigga know he proud of me and shit. Shit, one of my homies had called me from the hood and just let me know, like hell no, I just left him, like, ain't no way. I know where he just supposed to went, like, what you mean? First thing they say he was dead, they say he just got shot. You know what I'm saying? So I fly straight to the hood. You know what I'm saying? On the way to the hood, I'm getting off on exit 24, Mill Branch Road. They called me and pronounced like confirmed, like he gone. Like he walked in the hospital and collapsed type shit.
The tragic loss devastated everyone close to Nuski, and it only elevated the war in Memphis. Like really, you targeted Nuski when he had nothing to do with Dolph's passing, and only because he was Straight Drop's cousin? That's out of bounds. But the people sliding for Dolph sadly did not care, and this would not be the end of it. You'd think that after eliminating D-Money and Nuski that the sliding for Dolph would chill out, like we get the message. But unfortunately, as you'll see, enough would never be enough. And that reintroduces us to the notorious North Memphis gang known as True La Mafia. If you can recall, allegedly, Straight Drop and Cornelius were known members of the Trula Mafia. So given this, regardless of the fact that Trula and Dolph never really had beef because of, Straight Drop and Cornelius's involvement, well, they were on the list for revenge as well. Sliding for Dolph also meant sliding on Trula Mafia, and in particular, one man was a target. This would be a man named Joshua Taylor, commonly known as CEO Tezy. Tezy was known in Memphis as a top-ranking Trula Mafia member, and he was known to Memphis police as a person of interest in the slaying of young Dolph. Why? Well, police believe that he played a key role in orchestrating the hit, like finding where Dolph was and then getting the guys there to go get him. Well, given the fact that everyone knew this, you'd think that he and his homies would want to get the hell out of Memphis. Because the way people have been sliding for Dolph, you are definitely next in line. However, Tezy and his homies felt invincible, because I suppose in nearly 2 years since Dolph's passing, none of them were touched in revenge. In fact, Tezy's right-hand man named CEO Jizzle, well, he would do an interview on June 10th, 2023, bragging that his side does not take losses like the other side in Memphis.
Double out, we don't take deaths. We don't do that. We don't die. Like everybody else, I ain't shooting coach shit. Everybody else going straight from violent death. We ain't doing that.
The cocky attitude definitely pissing people off on Dolph's side. How I know this? Well, that fast forwards us just 3 days, June 13th, 2023. It's a late Tuesday night in Memphis, and CEO Tezy is driving home from a female's house across town. He gets home around 2 a.m., parks down the street from his house on Bunton Street, and begins walking home. Little does he know, a masked hitman is hiding behind a tree in front of his house. So as Tezy is walking towards his house, the man behind the tree is just waiting for the perfect opportunity. And as soon as he gets close, the man jumps out and pew! With a silencer, he knocks down Tezy without making a noise. And sadly, because of this, nobody would be alerted, and CEO Tezy's body would be discovered the next day.
Told by Memphis police that a high-profile gang member was killed in a shooting in Orange Mound this afternoon. This is according to family members who tell us Joshua Taylor was named a person of interest in the young Dolph murder case back in February of 2022. Officers say the shooting happened at Spotswood Avenue near Bunton Street. Police received a call about a body found around 1 p.m. this afternoon. A short time later, Police Chief C.J. Davis made the scene. Neighbors telling us they think the victim was actually shot last night. Police are telling us the investigation is still ongoing. We'll keep you posted.
This was a major loss in Memphis, because as they said, the CEOs were not taking losses like that. But most importantly, this marked yet another slaying as retaliation for Dolph. Back-to-back-to-back losses. This was getting out of control, and the craziest part is that just 60 days later, another would come. This time targeting a family member of somebody who was responsible for the start of this beef way back in the day. This would be the brother of rapper Black Youngsta named Tomanuel Benson. From what we know, yes, Tomanuel's in the streets, but he had nothing to do with Dolph's passing. So why is he a target? Well, if you can remember, Black Youngsta was the first person to publicly threaten Dolph and walk through his hood with Blake's. So I guess they never got rid of their vendetta, and because Black Youngsta was now way out of Memphis, they wanted to get the closest person to him. This seems ridiculous, but as we know, Get Back for Dolph has no limits. August 18th, 2023. It's a hot Friday afternoon in South Memphis, and Black Youngsta's brother is filling up at the BP gas station. He thinks it's a summer day like any other, but little does he know a man named Randy Ewing is out looking for him. So while he's pumping gas and not paying attention, Randy comes around the corner and lights him up. Thankfully, Randy misses 19 of his 20 shots, but the one shot that did land would claim Tomanuel's life.
A Memphis man wanted for murder is finally behind bars tonight after being captured by U.S. Marshals. 28-year-old Randy Ewing was taken into custody in Parkway Village last night after he was spotted by U.S. Marshals and the MPD fugitive team in the area of Crichton Avenue. He was wanted on second-degree murder charges for the shooting in August of Tomanuel Benson, the brother of Memphis rapper Black Youngsta.
This was obviously tragic for Black Youngsta and the whole CMG side. However, we're still yet to know what exactly this was about. Either way, Randy was caught on camera doing this, so he's probably away for life. But it is Memphis, and we never know what can happen. However, regardless of what the motive was, this was pretty much the nail in the coffin for the other side. I mean, back-to-back-to-back-to-back losses. Not to mention that since Dolph's passing, there have been over 1,100 murders in Memphis, so safe to assume that some other ones had something to do with it. It would be nearly impossible to try to figure out what had to do with what and what's get back and what's not. But what's not impossible? Well, that would be successfully solving Dolph's murder. I say that because more and more people would be arrested after straight dropping Cornelius, steady getting closer and closer to Yo... Never mind. But in 2024, police would finally gather enough evidence and testimony to arrest who they believe was the mastermind of Dolph's hit. They believe that this man supplied the weapons, recruited the hitters, and facilitated the money for ransom. Now, I have no idea if he did any of this, but from what you're about to see in this video, you probably won't doubt it. Listen to this. After being arrested for first-degree murder, Hernandez was somehow granted bail. How someone who's being charged with masterminding a murder is granted bail is beyond me, but it is Memphis at the end of the day. Now, after somehow being granted bail and returning home, what do you think that Hernandez would do? A. Lay low and try his absolute best to stay out of trouble. Or B. Doing the complete opposite. Obviously you guessed B, and you're definitely correct. Cause right after being released, Hernandez would feel famous and start doing an interview tour. What? In fact, in the interviews, he even talks about Yo Gotti, Young Dolph, and the entire situation. What? This is obviously ridiculous, and the judge would let him have it.
Mr. Govan, I don't have to tell you how serious these charges are. I know I don't even have to go back through that, all right? I also shouldn't have to remind you that you're out on a bond and the court has put you under some real serious or some real tight stipulations. Yes, ma'am. At this point, the court feels like you're playing fast and loose with the court and these stipulations. And I don't like that. You have filed a motion through your attorney asking me to review your bond conditions. And before we could ever do that, I get a message from a concerned citizen that you're out doing interviews. Whether you're talking about this case or not, you're doing interviews. And the court doesn't like the fact that you feel free enough to do interviews. Because what could be happening is that you could be in jail. And it's a whole lot easier to supervise you there.
So that's warning number 1. Please stop doing interviews or we're going to take you to jail until your trial. So at this point, what do you guys think Hernandez does? A. Lay low and try to stay out of trouble. Or B. Do the complete opposite.
We have breaking news just in from DeSoto County. One of the suspects in the Young Dolph case has been arrested in a separate case in South Haven. According to the DeSoto County Sheriff's Office, Hernandez Govan was booked Sunday, but we're told he's already bonded out. He's accused of stalking, making threats, driving with a suspended license, and having an improperly mounted tag. Govan is currently awaiting trial here in Shelby County on charges connected to the 2021 murder of rapper Young Dolph.
Big Jook couldn't have hired smarter criminals, so this was his best option. Between Hernandez doing all these shenanigans and then straight drop recording a music video in the same car he killed Young Dolph in, I mean, come on. Well, thankfully, while Hernandez is fighting his case, straight drop is overcooked in the courts.
Man sentenced to life in prison for killing Young Dolph gets 35 more years tacked onto his sentence, meaning Justin Johnson could be in his 70s before he's even considered for parole.
I think today's result, sends a very useful message that this kind of violence won't be tolerated, and we will do what we need to do to make sure that people who are dangerous stay locked up so they can't get out onto the streets again.
But Johnson's attorney maintains his client is innocent. He has already filed a motion to get a new trial.
Yeah, good luck with that, buddy. Well, after the arrests of Justin Johnson, Cornelius, Hernandez, and then the loss of CEO Tezy, there was only one person left on the streets. This would of course be Yo Gotti's older brother Big Jook, the one that police allege paid $100,000 for the hit on Dolph. However, to this point, they didn't have the hard evidence to arrest him and they were waiting on some testimony that could possibly lead to his arrest. However, Big Jook is not like the dummies you've seen in this video. In fact, he moves very smart and always covers his tracks. And no disrespect, but Jook does not move like Dolph. You're not going to catch him just riding around Memphis alone. In fact, you're probably not going to catch him in Memphis at all, only for very special occasions, and that takes us to the start of 2024. Growing up, Gotti and Jook had an uncle that they looked up to named Eric Bovan. Eric was a legendary Memphis kingpin, known for being a cutthroat boss and stacking his paper. He's most known for being the head of the Bovan organization, which pretty much ran the streets of Memphis in the 1980s and 1990s. If you're unfamiliar, he was pretty much the big meech of the region. So because of this, Eric was seen as a legend in the city, for all the wrong reasons of course. Well, unfortunately, Eric would pass away on New Year's Eve at the age of 63. His passing would bring much sadness to Gotti and Jook and many in the city of Memphis. And as a result, the funeral would be very big, with hundreds of people flying into town, of course including Yo Gotti and Big Jook. January 13th, 2024. It's the day of Eric's funeral and hundreds of people are in town, including Yo Gotti and Jook, who are rolling super deep with security. Well, strangely, in the morning of the funeral, Big Jook makes an Instagram post where he says, "Stay alert to stay alive. Watch your back at all times." Just keep that in mind. Well, the funeral goes by smoothly, and then after there's a gathering at a banquet on Winchester Road. So pretty much everyone heads from the church to the banquet, except for Yo Gotti, as he has something else to tend to. However, Jook decides not to go with Gotti and rather would go to the banquet. So at 3 p.m, he and his family hop in the Escalade and head down to Winchester Road. It's a joyous event and a joyous day all around, but little do they know, the rivals know about their exact whereabouts. Not knowing that he has rivals on their way to come find him, Jook hops out of the event at 4 p.m. and walks to his Escalade. This is where his mom is sitting in the back seat with the door open, and he goes up to her and whispers something in her ear. Immediately, she hops out of the car and walks back to the event. So now Jook is sitting in the car, and coincidentally at this exact moment, a white Ford Explorer pulls right alongside him. They roll their windows down, and without hesitation,
Get you back to that story we told you about off the top of the broadcast, a deadly shooting in Hickory Hill with connections to Memphis rapper Yo Gotti. Fox 13's Lakia Scott joins us live tonight from St. Francis Hospital. That's where the victims were taken. Lakia, what were you able to find out? Good evening to you.
Good evening, Daniel. Well, at least 5 police sources have confirmed with Fox 13 that the person killed is Anthony Mims, also known as Big Jook. Now, Big Jook is the brother of rapper Yo Gotti. Now, we were at that scene earlier tonight. Police say 2 men were shot outside Perion's restaurant and event center around 4:15. Now that's on Winchester near Kirby. According to the Memphis Police Department, the victim was inside a vehicle at the time and was brought here to St. Francis Hospital where he was pronounced deceased. Now I'm also learning there was a second person who was shot and was also taken to the hospital. It has not been confirmed who the second person is, but we do know it is a man and he was airlifted to Regional 1 in critical condition.
This was the ultimate nail in the coffin for Yo Gotti and CMG. After numerous losses following Dolph's passing, this was the biggest one of them all. Not only was Jook his big brother, but he was also Gotti's idol. He taught him how to hustle, he protected him, and police say that he got rid of ops for him too. Either way, this was major in the city of Memphis, and you might think that, wow, this is the end of the beef. I mean, with Dolph gone, DMoney, Nuski, Tezy, Tomanuel, and now Jook, who was even left? And when you think about it, all of this destruction and loss, for what reason? What was the reason for all of this? You can look at it however you want, but the fact of the matter is that nothing good came from the beef. All you're left with is a bunch of pain and kids without their fathers. All in all, sadly, this is a regular occurrence in Memphis. This is going on every single day.
359 homicides. That is a record number for the city of Memphis, in fact. The headlines, of course, they're just hard to ignore. But those numbers make it easy to forget that every life lost in our community this year was a person, someone's child, someone's mother. Tonight, Fox 13 Investigates is striving to put a name on those numbers and give you a true picture of all that we have lost.
In a city instrumental in the civil rights movement, where we celebrated our differences and our culture, people who are Black make up less than 65% of our population, but 89% of this year's homicide victims. 7% were Hispanic, and 4% were white.
Over 300 murders a year in such a small city. This cannot continue forever. So all I'm left to say is that we should pray for Memphis, and if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe, and let me know what you want to see next. Peace!